Hi everyone, I'm back to read the last part of Book 6 of the Caroline books, Changes for America in 1812. Almost as soon as the War of 1812 started, the governments of the United States and Britain wanted to find a way to end it. Finally, in the summer of 1814, leaders from the two countries met in Ghent, a city in Europe, to try to talk out their differences. On the day before Christmas, 1814, they signed a treaty or agreement to end the war. The Treaty of Ghent didn't stop the fighting, at least not right away. News traveled slowly by ship across the Atlantic Ocean, so word of the government didn't reach America for nearly 2 months. In the meantime, unaware that their leaders had agreed to end the war, British and American soldiers fought one more big battle. On January 8, 1815, the British Army invaded New Orleans. American soldiers fought them so fiercely that in only 2 hours the British gave up and retreated. About a month later, the ship carrying news of the treaty arrived at a harbor near New York City. As the news traveled across the nation, Americans like Caroline's family were overjoyed to learn that the war was finally over. They celebrated by shooting fireworks, ringing bells, and holding parades. At last, life would go back to normal. Because American soldiers had beaten the British at New Orleans, many Americans felt their country had won the war. But some experts say that the War of 1812 was a war that nobody won. The conflict brought great suffering to both sides. About 2,000 soldiers and sailors were killed on each side, and thousands more were wounded in battle. In addition, great numbers of civilians like Robbie Parkhurst and his family in the story suffered or died because the war kept them from getting medical care or enough to eat. And in the end, after almost 3 years of fighting, the treaty required both countries to give back the territories they'd taken from each other during the war. Neither side gained or lost even an inch of land. Still, some important things did change. Because shipping was blocked during the war, the United States could not get goods to other countries. So American businesses started making more products. After the war, manufacturing continued to grow quickly, bringing great wealth to the country. In addition, by winning several key battles against the British, the strongest fighting force in the world, the young United States proved to other countries that it was a nation on the rise, and its independence had to be respected. The war also gave Americans their national anthem, created a new reverence for the flag, and established a sense of national pride. Britain and Canada would never fight America again. In fact, both countries would become firm friends and allies of the United States. The war gave Canadians a new sense of pride and identity too. The United States stopped trying to expand its borders north into Canada. Instead, American settlers focused on pushing west. New England had become crowded, and young people were finding it harder and harder to start farms or businesses there. In search of open land and new opportunities, some moved to western New York. Others ventured even farther to the new and fast-growing state of Ohio. So many new towns were springing up in Ohio, people joked that they were running out of names for them. In the years after the war, settlers pushed into the territories of Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois, and still farther west into the vast lands beyond the Mississippi River. It could take years to build a farm out of the forest. Families often began much of the way that Caroline's Uncle Aaron and Aunt Martha and Cousin Lydia did. First, they cleared a small patch of land, either by chopping down trees or by cutting away rings of bark around the trunks so that the trees would wither and die. Brushes and shrubs were burned away, filling the sky with smoke for months at a time. Amid the rocks, stumps, and roots that could not easily be removed, the family planted its first crops. Gradually, a farmer cleared more land, making room for a barn, livestock, and more crops. Like Lydia's family, settlers usually started out living in a cramped, rough cabin with a dirt floor. The roof and walls were often full of cracks. There were many ways for rain, cold air, and even small animals to sneak in. Girls like Lydia got used to sharing their homes with the insects, the mice, and other pests. As soon as they could afford to, a frontier family improved their cabin or built a new, more comfortable farmhouse. Life on a new farm meant hard work for everyone in the family. As soon as he or she was able, the youngest child might be responsible for hauling drinking water from streams, clearing stones from fields, and gathering firewood. Older children like Lydia had even more to do. Louisa Collins, a girl living on a farm in 1815, kept a record of chores in her diary. She milked cows, raked hay, picked currants and bayberries, made wine, churned butter, spun wool to make yarn, and sewed clothes, and that was all in just a week. "I shall retire early tonight," she wrote one night, "for I feel quite tired after my day's work." In such isolated and challenging circumstances, people often became especially close to their families and friends. Neighbors grew to trust and rely on one another, just as Uncle Aaron and the Sinclairs do. The prospect of backbreaking work and rough living conditions didn't stop settlers from flocking to the frontier. In the 4 years after the war ended, America gained 4 new states to the south and west: Indiana, Mississippi, Illinois, and Alabama. The swift flow of people to the new frontier changed the nation. Settlers cleared forests and plowed up prairies, established farms, and built towns and roads, altering the landscape dramatically. Native American ways of life in these regions were also changing forever. America's push westward would one day allow it to become one of the largest and most diverse countries in the world. Eventually, America would stretch all the way from the Atlantic Ocean in the east to the Pacific Ocean in the west. From sea to shining sea, the promise of land and opportunity brought people to the frontier from all over the world. Just like Caroline's and Lydia's families, the newcomers hoped to build houses, farms, and businesses through persistence and hard work. America was fast becoming a place that people of nearly every background and heritage could call home. Okay, and that is the end of our story of Changes for Caroline. Hope you liked it.